Hey guys, it is Liv. I wanted to come on. I'm still fairly new at YouTube, y'all, and I mean, honestly, it is a beast. But I wanted to come on and share my testimony with so many of you because I believe that it will help. I believe it'll help somebody, even if it's just one person. I believe that it will help somebody. Now, I had to go get my coffee. Okay, I haven't had coffee in like 2 weeks. Shout out to Starbucks. And I wanted to take this time, take my time with kind of going through um, my testimony. Now, granted, I know there's so many more testimonies that God has for me to give, but right now, right here, I have to give this testimony in the way that I'm feeling it right now to give it to y'all, and also in the midst of it, also sharing some things, some dreams, some insight that the Lord gave me along with it. All right, so um, let's start. So back in 2016 or so, I had the Lord spoke to me and He said that I was losing my job, right? And He had told me, like, I was just like, I had gotten back into church and really serving God and really just doing everything I could to deepen my relationship with Christ, and I was just like hungry, to see where the Lord was taking me. And I feel like my relationship with God had really started to accelerate quickly because I just really was hungry. And I remember like just really sporadically hearing from God like over the years and just starting to really hear from Him in 2016 and knowing that it was Him. And in 2016, He said, "Yeah, you're going to lose your job, Olivia." And I was like, "Okay, cool," because He had started already working on me before then. He had already been telling me that there's more. I have more for you. There's more for you. I want you to do more. There's more in you, and we about to go at this thing. And I was just like, "Okay, God, whatever you say, your will, not mine, right?" And of course, it's not always like that in the beginning. You know what I mean? And over time, that is the aspect that you have to learn. And so, fast forward, 2017. I'm sorry, into 2016 hit, and they told us that, yeah, you are going to lose your job. And we are literally, there's nothing we could do. We're not going to, you've been here for 10 years, but you know what? Ain't nothing we can do. You know what I mean? You have all these degrees that we pay for. But yeah, we're not going to shift you to another department, right? I knew it was nothing but God. You know what I mean? Because I had been looking for position after position in there, especially once I got in a master's degree and had started a PhD program. And I could not to any avail get into any department. All right. I'd known tons of people, had been involved in tons of things, but I could not get into any other department. And I had also been applying outside of the company as well, and could not get a job either outside of the department, outside of the company. And so I knew that the Lord was about to just bless me so tremendously. I'm like, Lord, And at that time, I had started this blog called Love Live Blog, and it was really about inspiring and motivating women, because I had been in a 7-year relationship where I hadn't did nothing. And after that 7 years, it was over after I allowed God to deliver me and heal me out of that relationship. It's like my eyes awakened to all these new possibilities. Like that bondage from that relationship had ended. It just completely, the Lord diminished it. He broke it off of me. And I started seeing so much more. And so I wanted to teach others how to get off the couch. I called it then. Now I would probably call it casting your net to the other side or getting off the boat or something. But back then, that's what it was. I had just started that, and I was just ready to take off because I knew that the Lord was impressing that type of ministry on my heart, just to motivate and inspire other people, of how to get through, because I've seen too many people just stay stagnant, stay still for so long, and not even think that there was anything more inside of them, and to one day have this awakening, like, oh my God, like, Lord, this is legit, I wanted other people to feel that. And so let's fast forward again. End of November, I ended up losing. I was supposed to lose my job in December, but in November, a friend had called me and said, "Hey, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning." So she emailed me and she said, "Hey, you know what? My church is having an event tomorrow. It's like a harvest event. I would love for you to come. The Spirit is just telling me to invite you." So I was like, "Okay, I'll come." And I wasn't in a rough place. I had been doing, I was in a rough place. But I wasn't in my roughest place. But I was in a rough place just trying to figure out what I was going to do because, December was coming and I hadn't really found a job yet, but I still was just trusting God. And I knew something else was in me, but I just didn't know how to maneuver and navigate through it. And she was like, come. So I went and I really enjoyed it. And so there was tons of people there, but by the time the end of the service had reached, I could see clearly to the beginning or to the front of the church. And so the pastor said, she looked right at me. She said, "You stand up." And I'm like, "Me?" I'm looking at her like, "Me?" Out of all these people, me. She said, "Yeah, you." And I'm not unfamiliar with prophecy. Actually, I have a prophetic voice, and my pastor's a prophet, but I had never, had received prophecy from anyone outside of my church. And so she said, your life is about to change in 3 months, okay? Like, God is about to take you on this journey, and what the Lord is telling me to tell you is to hold on. Hold on, all right? Don't give up because you are going to see the glory. Like, if you can hold on, you are going to see the glory of the Lord on your life. And I was like, okay. And I'm crying. I'm like, all right. And she said, you're going to do some awesome things. And I'm just like, okay. Like, all right, I'm here with it. And so I went back to work that week. And I was supposed to, again, remember, I was supposed to lose my job in December. And it's November. Well, they reached out and they were like, yeah, you're not going to lose your job until 3 months, okay, from today. And so I'm like, oh, wow. So she just told me that my life was going to change in 3 months. So basically that's what it was, is that in 3 months, like, I'm going to, lose my job. And that's when there's going to be a whole shift in my life. And so fast forward, I lost my job. And life seemed great. I'm gonna be honest. Life seemed really great. I was in a relationship now, and I was traveling like crazy. I had went somewhere every month, somewhere every month, and it was just great. And I was applying for jobs, hadn't found nothing, and I was still freelancing. I had been freelancing since 2013, and that was some out of the box. Some people just started reaching out to me randomly for that, and that was kind of cool because I hadn't been promoting myself, but people were like, "Hey, you still do this?" I'm like, "Yeah," and word of mouth travel, and I was getting clients, which was really, really great. And I ended up picking up a part-time job from a university, which was cool. And I don't know. Not my unemployment, but my severance stopped, and I'm like, what's next? And so now I literally felt a shift happening in my life. Like there was already a shift happening, but I knew that there was a real shift happening because what started happening was money wasn't coming in like it was supposed to. The part time wasn't enough. I was running through my savings. I was in a relationship that I knew I had to get out of now at this point. Got out of it. And I'm just like, okay, God, I'm trying to apply for jobs, but I don't have, nothing's happening. I got this master's degree. I got all these degrees. Every time I apply for something, people are like, you are so qualified, but nothing. All these doors are being shut in my face. All I have is this little business, this little freelance work that I've been doing. And so the Lord was like, well, what's in your hand? Just go hard with that. Go hard with it. So I just started really, really like promoting. I had at this point let go of the Love Lift blog because I was kind of feeling inadequate. I was feeling discouraged because I'm like, okay, I can't really motivate anybody or inspire anybody because I don't feel inspired. I'm like feeling like, okay, what's going on? And so eventually what happened was, I was fasting. I was doing all kind of stuff, and I ended up losing the part-time job because that was only a year contract. And then, my pastor had already told me maybe a year prior, she said, you're going to be moving back home with your mom. And I said, no, I'm not. All right. Because that was a place that I just did not want to go back to. Okay. I didn't want to go back there. I liked being on my own. I enjoyed being on my own. And there was things that happened, not to me as a child there, but there were things that I dealt with as a child there that I did not want to return to. Okay. And it reminded me too much of that. And so I did not want to go back there. And I was just like, no, I'm not going back there. So I fought and fought and fought and fought and fought. And so what eventually happened was I lost my apartment, and I'm super behind on my car note. I'm not getting any money. I was extraordinarily depressed. I mean, when I tell you I was depressed. Okay. I just didn't like, I didn't show it in the manifestation of how many people might show it, but I was just down. Like, I wasn't live. I wasn't this happy, joyful girl that, most people knew. Like, I could still smile and stuff, but I was just like, I wasn't defeated, but I was very somber, if that makes any sense. Okay. So then I started just making sure I fasted, and I started reading my word even more, and just trying to just giving God glory, this whole time, just because I didn't want to. I had been reading about, the people in the wilderness, and I was just like, this must be a wilderness season for me, and I didn't want to repeat what they had did, by the complaining and things like that. And so I was sitting home and I would cry and this and the third, and finally I lost the apartment. I was almost near losing my car, moved with my mom, and just that was like defeating. But it took a weight off of me to not have those bills anymore. With the exception of the fact I'm looking out the window every night for my car, like making sure they didn't come get my car. And so what happened was I started dreaming. All right, the Lord started giving me when I say these dreams were so vivid and so just amazing. Like, he was literally showing me what was happening. So he gave me one dream where, and honestly, these are two dreams that's impressed upon me. I have a whole dream journal because the Lord has given me so many dreams at this point just to encourage me and show me. And the one dream that he gave me these are dreams that he had me hold on to, was a dream where I was on my knees, and I've talked about this in previous videos. I was on my knees in this dream, and I was holding out a cup just like this. And you know how you're like in a gym and you're like up against the wall, like doing some squats. You know how painful that is. I could imagine how painful that was for me in that dream. But to no avail, I just stayed in that posture. And so obviously on your knees is the posture of prayer. Okay. That is the posture of prayer. And so I stayed in that posture, and I did not put that cup down. And when I was looking down the line, because I was in a line and there was people swirled around and swirled behind me, there was God, and he was coming down this line, and he had a container, a vessel, and he was pouring contents from the vessel into the cups that other people were holding out. And he was pouring the contents in, and the contents was just pouring out. And it was splashing on other people around, and then he would keep going down the line. And everybody in the line just had their cups up. And so finally he got to me, and what did he do? He poured contents from this vessel that just seemed never ending because he never refilled it. It was just constantly filled. And he poured the contents into my cup. Okay. And again, just like everybody else, the contents splashed all over and they overflowed, right? And automatically that reminded me of Psalms 23, all right? Your cup will overflow. And I was just like, wow, like he gave me that dream. And it was just, honestly, when I woke up, I was just like, my God, like, I know this is you speaking to me. I know that this is a Psalms 23 dream where you're just telling me, like, your cup is going to overflow, but you got to stand in line. You got to stand in posture. Stay in the posture. Stay in the posture of prayer. Stay in the posture of praise, because that's only when the blessing comes. When you decide that you're going to give up, you're going to walk away from God, and you're going to miss everything that he is doing, right? And so then he gave me another dream. And the other dream, I was on a cruise ship with some friends. And, ships are, generally you would think ships mean ministry, but I believe that this was representing life, like your life activities and stuff. And I was on this ship with these friends were going, they ended up leaving me in the dream. I'm sorry. And I woke up in the dream and I was like, where y'all at? Why y'all left me? And I'm on the phone with them and they didn't respond. And I was just like, and I'm like, how would y'all leave me? Like, y'all left me here. And now I'm in a total disarray in the dream because I'm like, I got to get to my destination. But they left me. How am I going to get back? So I pack my stuff and this suitcase, and I go out of the room on the ship, and I'm like looking at this long line, and I have a lot of dreams with lines, okay, and eventually the dreams changed and shifted to where I was at the back of the line to the front, which actually this dream kind of is actually the same way, but many of my other dreams happened the same way. I'm looking at the line and I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to get to my destination because this line is so long. All right. And I know some of y'all, I don't want y'all to stop looking at the video because I know you're like, well, where the testimony at? I'm getting there. And so I'm in a dream. I'm just like, oh my God. So next thing you know, I get a knock at the door. And there's this person that comes in the dream. And at this point, I can't remember the person. I don't even remember they had a face. I just remember they said, you don't have to stand in that line. Come with me. And I'm like, okay. And so I go to this line, and there's a shorter line, a very short line, maybe 15 people, and they're like, this is the line you're going to be standing in, and you're going to get on that aircraft, not the other one. And so I get on this other aircraft, and it's just the right amount of seats for the amount of people in the line, okay? And so I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Like, I literally didn't have to wait in line. I just literally this is an exclusive line for an exclusive set of people, a set of part people that are supposed to take this particular aircraft, okay? And so we take off, and when we took off, we just took off quickly, very quickly. And it wasn't like let's run in circles. And I've had a lot of dreams like that too, where it's like literally it's an acceleration so great, like a very quick acceleration. It's not like it's zoom, So we took off, and we're in the sky, and we're like seeing all these. I mean, it's a panoramic view on the aircraft, and we're looking all out around us, and we're just like, this is amazing, this is beautiful. And at some point we're going through like these high mountain peaks. And they're like mountain peaks like this is the mountain, and the plane's literally going in between them sideways, even though there's all this air. And I'm in a plane like, why did you do that? And I'm like, okay, because you can, you're the pilot, you're just showing off. You showing us that you can get us through anything, right? And so then we get to this point where there's this water sprout that's like from the ocean all the way up to the sky, and it's purple and it's blue, and it was just sprouting. It was just absolutely gorgeous. And I remember the dream saying, oh my God, this is a miracle sign and a wonder. And the dream ended. And so I'm like, my God. And, certain dreams you don't actually have to interpret. Some dreams are just what they are. God is like literally telling you, like, this is what's going to happen. And, you're just waiting around, and you're waiting for the manifestation of these things to come the way that the Lord would do them. Granted, we don't always know how he's going to perform, how he performs, or what his will may be, but that God is faithful. He's going to do what he said he was. So now I'm 2 years in at my mother's house, okay? I'm like 2 years in. It was a hard place, but I never stopped praising God. I never stopped worshiping him. I never stopped fasting. I would sit in my car for hours, y'all. 6 to 8 hours sometimes, because the way the living situation in my mom's house is my mom's in her room, my dad's in the living room. I'm stuck in this little bitty room, okay, this little 4-wall room. I have too much stuff in the room. It is absolutely like, it's just, you can't think in there. So I spent a lot of time, even in the winter, outside in my car. And so for them to say that they may come get my car, it was just like, and I was getting a letter every month. So I would pay the minimum and still have 2 months, but that was enough to offset them from not coming to get it. So then finally I had gotten a pretty nice amount from a client, okay? And this client like helped me set me up, like for real, because I put that money on my car. And I called them, I said, hey, I got this payment. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, what's going on? I told them what's going on. This is why God says that we need to make sure we confront the things that, we don't leave anything behind, confront like our issues, And so I was like, let me confront this thing. So I was like, yeah, this is what's going on. I really don't have any income coming in. Barely, like next to nothing, any income. And I'm like, this is crazy, but I want to pay this. Hopefully y'all work with me. They were like, all right, well, we'll take this. And you know what else we'll do? Because we want to pay your car. My car was actually almost paid off. All right. They're like, we're going to just wipe out $2,000 and just pay us this $1,000 and, this next $1,000 and you can have a car. You done. I was like, oh my God, absolutely. And so I told my mom. My mom was so ecstatic because she was, just down about it. And I was down, but I was no longer looking through. But it was like all of that for them to only wipe off $2,000. And now I don't even have to pay the full amount anyway, right? So that was like a major testimony and blessing. And so then I started getting a lot. I started getting a lot more business. It still wasn't enough, and I still had not made a lot of money in my first. This is like technically my first year of business at this point, and I'm like, man, this is crazy. I'm still applying for jobs and still doors being shut in my face. I'm like, God, like, why can't I get a job? I was so hidden. It seemed like I was discounted out. My friends were like, this girl ain't gonna do nothing. This stuff. I couldn't go on the trips, and no one was even really reaching out to me. And I know now, like in hindsight, that it was really just God just wanting to show me that I need you to trust me and I need you to depend on me, okay, before anybody. I need you to trust me and depend on me. And I remember days when I didn't have no money, y'all, no money. I may have had $1, and I always talk about this $1.63 I had in my account, and sometimes a negative $1.63 in my account that I had, and God would supply. And this is really just a part of this testimony is how much of a supplier and sustainer God is, because not one of my bills went unpaid. Like outside of my car note, even though that was paid, like that was God sustained that, because I always had enough to just pay that amount so they didn't come get my car until he really was like, okay, it's to the point they'll go ahead and wipe it off, and I'll bless her so she can do this, so that they'll wipe that amount off so she doesn't have to pay the whole thing. That was a blessing. But I remember there was days that I just wanted to go to the movies and I didn't have any money. And next thing I know, somebody's sending me some money via Cash App. I'm like, where'd that come from? Or somebody's calling me up and they're like, hey, you want to go to the movies? Or, hey, I want to treat you to lunch. I mean, it was just so random, And I remember that. And I never will forget, because it reminds me of how God, provided the manna for them in the wilderness, or how, even the Lord sent the ravens to feed Elijah, the food, they're meat eaters, and they're carrying him meat. He gave them everything they needed, and he gave me everything I needed. Like, maybe it wasn't what I wanted in that time, because, I'm like in my mid-30s at this point. I'm like, God, I shouldn't be going through this. Nobody knew what I was going through. I mean, maybe a few close friends and family knew I had lost, pretty much everything. It was almost losing my mind, but God is such a graceful God. Nobody knew, and it was just like, this is crazy. I shouldn't be going through this, but God sustained me. He took care of me, all right? And even in the midst of that, I was still paying my tithes. All right, so now we're going to fast forward, all right? Because I will save y'all the heartache of some of that time that I just hurt, and I'm human. I hurt. I had anxiety. I remember there was even, let me stop here, because there was a time even when I was ready to like literally just let go. Okay, it was in the middle of the night, and the enemy came to attack me so bad. He came to antagonize me so bad, because I was really just down. I was like, Lord, like I'm this, I'm that. I don't have a husband. I ain't got no kids. I ain't got no house. I ain't got nothing. I'm like, I mean, I do have this, and I'm grateful for it, Lord, but what is going on in my life? And so I went to bed just down. And about 3 a.m. is when the enemy usually comes to really try to attack you. That's why we need to be up in prayer those times. He came, and I got up, and he literally was like, look over at your desk. This is why we know that it's not just the Lord that speaks to us. He said, look over at your nightstand. I looked over there. There were some pills over there. And he told me exactly what would happen if I took them. He said, if you take these, you'll have a cardiac arrest, and it will happen so quickly, you won't even feel it. And what he allowed me to do was feel myself taking the pills. He said, see how easy that would go down? That would be so easy. In that moment, I had enough strength. I was crying, and I'm looking like, maybe I should just do it, And in that moment, I said, Lord, help me. I had enough strength to say, God, help me. Lord, help me. Lord, I need you to send your angel to help me. In that moment, I literally felt a wind of just a shifting in my spirit. And I was like, I can't even really explain it. It was just like, it was like life just flowed through me in that moment. And I was like, I started praying and praising God and worshiping. And that thought left, all right? God literally sent help in that moment. So he is also a helper, okay? And so, He just protected me through this whole period. It was a time. It was just a time when the Lord needed to prune. He needed to shift. He needed to change my mind. He needed to break me. He needed to mold me. Because, yeah, I had hard moments. But and many of us will have hard moments, all right? I don't want to make this seem like this whole time was just all depression. Because it wasn't. There were a lot of moments of depression. But there were also a lot of moments of picking myself up and saying, Liv, you know who God is. You know God is faithful. You know who He started a work is faithful to complete this work. And just quoting scriptures over myself. So I don't want you to think I just cried. And God at some point gave me a testimony, which is what I'm really getting to. I mean, a lot of those were testimonies too. But it was a lot of me partnering with Him in prayer, me partnering with worship, me being faithful even with the little that I had, and just waiting, all right, and allowing Him to just do what He was doing, all right. And so fast forward to COVID, all right, to 2020. I started just feeling a shift happening. And a friend of mine was like, hey, let's go to DC. We're going to Black Girls Rock. And I'm like, girl, I ain't got no money. I'm not going anywhere. And she said, you're going. I've already paid for this. You're going. And so I'm like, all right. And so I ended up getting, some invoices in. And it was enough to pay her, like at least on the Airbnb. Because I hate for anybody just to pay and I'm not give them anything. And so I paid her that. By the time the trip came, I had gotten several invoices in. Because I just had a yes. I was like, yes, fine, okay, cool. And I told God I was going. I was like, God, I'm going if this is okay with you. If it's okay, go ahead and provide. He provided. I had money. Everything was paid. I had money to go out of town and still enjoy myself. And then even while I was there, I was getting invoices. And so before then, my pastor was like, she had prophesied over me. And she said, God is about to open some major financial doors for you. And she said, I know you've been having these issues, but what the Lord's about to do in your life, child, listen. People going to have to take a back seat. And I'm like, okay. But this whole time I'm like struggling because I feel called to do certain things. I'm like, Lord, what are you telling me to do? Like, I feel stuck in this place because what I realized is that I was trying to really control the narrative of it. And God was like, girl, take your hand out of it. I got this, right? And so I go to DC, COVID literally had just struck in DC at that time. I think 3 people had it. Those were the first 3 people that it was like noted actually had it. Granted, we probably know many people had it before then. But those were the first 3 people that was literally like, yeah, these people have it. And so, of course, it was a little nerve-wracking, but we went. We had a great time. Now, before I went, I had applied for a part-time job. It was very part-time. It would end up being just a contract with a church. And I was like, well, I'm going to go ahead and apply for it, just to get some extra cash in and stuff like that. And they had interviewed me before I left. And I didn't know whether or not, it was for me or not. But I had told the Lord, I said, Lord, if you want me to take this, then make sure, my business, I have my business and I don't want to fall away from it. But if you want me to take this, then let me know. And so I went out, I did, what I needed to do for them while I was out of town. And when I came back and they had set up another interview with the pastor. And I'm sorry, y'all, my my sweater is stuck onto my bracelet. But I ended up coming back and I interviewed with them. And I had a dream. I interviewed with the pastor, but before that, I had a dream with me and the pastor. We were in a hotel room, and we were about to take off. And so for me, that was the Lord showing me that it was okay for me to take this position, right? If they offered it. And so then I had went through, sometimes the way the Lord talks to me is very strangely, where I literally do these stories. I don't know how to describe them. I do stories like. A lot of times, a lot of things that I say is really God. Like just if I'm just having a moment in the spirit and I just start speaking, it's God, it's Holy Spirit speaking out of me prophetically. But for my own life, He'll give me a story, like a script. And so I went and did this whole script of where the job that I applied for, they were not going to offer me that one, but they were going to offer me another one. And so I didn't think anything of it. And when I came back and interviewed with her, it wasn't even an interview. It was like, okay, yeah, we're offering you this job, but it's not the job that you applied for. It's something else. And I was like, Lord, you know what? You are so funny. You funny, And so now I have this amount of income that's coming in. It's like, pretty good. And it's like a contract because it's not really part-time, but it's just a short contract. Not a short contract. It's like the hours weren't really, extensive or whatever. And so that was one thing. And as soon as that happened, y'all, COVID Okay, so this is what happened. I'm sorry if I'm sporadic right now. I get excited when I tell this. The Lord, even in my position that I was in, financially, the Lord started impressing upon me what was going on with COVID. And not what was going on with it. Like, yeah, it was sent by the enemy, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they were, messing up the numbers and all this stuff. And, what he was telling me was that this was like a real time of transition, like a transitioning time. And it was a time of goodness and glory. And I know it didn't look like that, but God never, does anything on the front end. It always looks like, it's something amazing. It's usually in hindsight that we see and be like, aha, I see what you did there. And so he gave me a dream of a wave of glory coming. And I was like, oh my God. So all through this, when COVID hit, I was like doing all kind of videos on my business page. Like, y'all, listen, this is about to be a time of favor. And God even woke me up and spoke that to me one day. Like, there's about to be some favor. Like, this is about to hit. And I'm telling people, and people like, oh, whatever, it's COVID. Like, this is scary. And I'm like, I know it's scary, but don't look at the scary. Don't be distracted. Look, God is about to do something amazing. All right. And I think even in the midst of that and me knowing that is really where the manifestation of what God was doing in my life really started happening, because I just believed and I had faith and I wasn't focused on everything that was going around me. I just had faith in God and what he was capable and is capable of doing. All right. So this is where the full testimony comes in circle, right? My business took off, all right, in a matter of 2 months. I made more than I had made all of last year in 2 months, all right? And it wasn't even just from the income from the church. It was from clients. I was getting client after client after client after client after client. Non-stop. Client, y'all. Like, I was about to speak in tongues. So I was about to start speaking in the Holy Spirit because I just got excited. I made more in 2 months than I had made all last year. Now, last year was somebody's income, but in 2 months I made that and started making that even more plus. And my mind was blown. Now that goes back to what my pastor said, that God was about to open some financial doors for me that was really going to blow my mind, right? And I remember in the midst of that, when I was checking my account, because at this point I'm tripping. I'm like, Lord, I just remember just last year, I had $1.63 in my account, and now I have this. Like, oh my God, Lord, what is going on? Like, and with COVID there, I wasn't going nowhere, so all my money is just stacking up in the bank. And so I'm just like, wow, this is really blowing my mind. And so moving on, I'm like, okay, God, what do you want me to do? But what I started getting a little nervous, because I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm going to get stuck here. Like, I don't want to get stuck here. I don't want to get so consumed in this that I'm not doing what you want me to do, that I'm not able to step in. He was like, look, don't get comfortable here. There's more for you to do. I'm just blessing you right now. I'm just opening doors so that I can set you up. All right. So now my car is paid off. I paid my car off. And it started acting crazy. And I'm like, oh my God. Now I'm still living with my mom and I'm still frustrated. I'm like, Lord, I can't keep living here. But I didn't feel like I could move yet. I didn't feel like it was time yet. And like now it's like it's a little bit over 2 years and my car is acting crazy. So the Lord was just speaking to me and was like, this is it. This is you're moving in your promised land. Now let me rewind for a minute. The Lord had gave me a dream, and I know y'all probably like, man, this girl got dreams, okay? But that's how the Lord speaks to me. Beginning in January 1st, actually, I thought that there was about to be some catastrophic shift that happened in my life, and I was so ready for it because I was tired, y'all. I was so tired. I was just tired and over it and drained mentally and spiritually. And I just wanted and was ready for something new. And I was crying and I'm like, Lord, I'm about to go to sleep. And so I'm halfway in the middle of a sleep and halfway in the middle of a woke, right? A woke. Y'all know what I mean. And the Lord gives me this vision. And in the vision, I see myself crossing over a threshold. And he showed me my feet. And he showed me that I actually crossed over through this door. And, when I woke up, he was like, it's time to cross over the threshold, Olivia. And I'm like, okay. And I don't know if any of you know Lana Valsa. I love saying her name Valsa because she's from Australia. And I feel like I sound like I got a full accent when I sing Valsa. But anyway, she had that same day. Now, granted, they're like 7 hours, 14 hours ahead of us. I don't know. I had left the house because I was like, I can't be in the house today. I know it's cold. No, nothing's open. It's New Year's Day, but I went out and sat in my parking lot, my favorite parking lot, which became my prayer spot, where I would pray and go to war in the spirit in the car. I went sit in that parking lot that day, and it was snowy, and I was just like, I'm gonna sit here and I'm just gonna do some work and I'm gonna listen and this and the third, and listen to her video for that day. And I remember her speaking, and she stopped in the middle of the video and was like, I heard the Lord just saying that some of you are about to cross over the threshold. And so the Lord always confirms with me a lot of times when he says stuff to me, he'll use the same exact terminology. Now, granted, she's in Australia, all right? And using the word threshold is not in my vocabulary to use. Not that it's some big over-the-top word, but it's just not something I would say. So I know it was the Lord that said it. And for her to say that, I was like, oh, my God. Okay, so now I'm holding on to these dreams. I'm holding on to this word this whole year, all right? And still holding on to it even now because I know that I'm still in this process of reaching this promised place. So now what happens, fast forwarding back to where we are, the Lord began to impress upon my heart that there was a new thing, all right? He gave me a dream about being a new thing, and I woke up to him singing a song over me about it being new, a new start. And the song was Maverick City Music, Take Me Back. It was the end of that song that he just was singing over me. And I believe it's Zephaniah 3:19 when he talks about that. It might be Zephaniah 3:19. I know it's in Zephaniah, but he talks about where he sings over you in that particular scripture. And so he would sing over me and sung that song, and I was just like, okay, he's saying it's a new start. And so then he gave me a dream of me. Literally, he was saying in a dream, jump, jump, jump. And so I was like, okay. So he was telling me to start taking these leaps of faith. And so in the dream, I did. But it burdened me when I woke up because I said, what do you want me to do, Lord? I don't want to miss you. And at this point, I kind of was in a place of trauma only because I still was having some control issues, okay? Because I still wanted to control the narrative. And I still, wasn't really honoring God as the sovereign God that he is, even though he's done all this for me. And I mean, I'm human. I'll just be honest with that. I was frustrated because I was like, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to jump and do? And so the first thing I did when my car started acting up, I was like, what, fine, I'm going to go get another car. Now, just a year ago, here I am struggling to pay a car note, right? Because it was just like, in a really rough time. But now here I am in a definite financial overflow. And granted, I didn't want another car note. But in faith, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it because this car is at this point, it was a long loan. It was a brand new car when I got it, but it was just on Struggle Street. It's a 7-year loan, all right? And it was just like, okay. And I'm a little bit hard on cars, to be honest. But it needed some work. And so I was just like, Lord, I don't know. What should I do? But the Lord just began to press upon my heart. I was like, if you want to go, what do you want? And I didn't want to be materialistic, but it was like, I said, what do you want? Just, And so I was like, I'm going to get a new car. And so I went and got a new car. It was like that. And I remember my father was like, well, you need a co-signer? And I was like, no, I got the car. No, I got it. I didn't need no money down. It was, bam, low car note, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Okay, cool. So then a few weeks went by, and then the Lord was like, okay, you can move. And I was like, you sure? Can I move? And he didn't just say that directly, but I felt that it was impressed upon my heart that I could move. Okay, go look for an apartment. And even still, I struggled with that, thinking I had control, that it was just all me. And it was really, no, the Lord ordered my steps, okay, go. And so I'm like, all right, Lord, if you said I could move, make it easy, make it smooth. I don't want to even pay next to nothing. So I went to a few places, and I got frustrated because I didn't like them. And then he allowed me to remember another apartment that a friend had lived in. And I was like, I remember that apartment. He said, go there. I'm like, well, it's a little far. Go there. Went there. I barely had to pay anything. I barely had to pay anything. I don't want to cry, but I spent 2 years in a room, basically feeling locked into a room or in my car for hours, and got approved for this apartment like this, and had the money, and wasn't stressed out about paying, and was like, okay, God got me, he protected me, because at some point I really just started trusting God with money, right? Like, okay, God, you got me. And I ended up moving on the 10th floor, and that's like a number the Lord gives me all the time. He gives me 1010 all the time. So she was like, it's on the 10th floor, and the apartment's 1015. I'm like, okay, All right. And I'm a numbers person, not an angel number, y'all, but like an actual biblical number person because the Lord speaks to me in numbers all the time. And so I was like, okay. And she said, and you're going to move on 8-8. And 8-8 is the number for new beginnings. And I was just like, oh, Jesus. Well, 8 is. And I was like, oh, Lord, okay. You know what? I'm moving. And I struggle with it. And the enemy came in and he tried to swoop the blessing. He not swoop it, take it away, but swoop me from giving God the glory that God deserved. But in all of that, all right, I'm done with that. The Lord continues to bless me. This is the testimony. The Lord sustained me. He protected me. He kept me. He fed me. He paid my bills. He paid my car off. He allowed my business to begin booming. He allowed me to get a brand new car in a matter of a year. He allowed me to move out into my own new apartment. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's better than the one I lost. And I know that even this is like temporary because I know that there's even a better place where I'm going. And that is, honestly, all of that is just absolutely amazing because if you knew the heartache, you knew the pain, you knew the struggle, you would know like, wow, the Lord did all that. And so this is what I'm here to tell you. The Lord restores. He is a God of restoration. All of that did not just happen because I cried. All of it did not just happen because I was like, okay, I want this, I want. It took partnership in prayer. It took partnership in even praying for people. And we think about Job. Job did not get restoration until he began to pray for his friends. The Lord showed me that I am to intercede for people, prophetic intercessory. And so I would go to war just praying for people. Especially when COVID hit. I'm in the store praying. Okay, I'm in my car, I'm praying. Because I knew that there was something, I knew it was going to take people in an uproar, an upheaval, because it was something new that was happening. And people was not going to just give God the glory like that when they seen all this chaos happening. So I'm praying over people, I'm warning over people, and also I not only paid my tithes, y'all, I was sowing. I didn't just get all that money in and just store it up for myself. I was sowing to people, and I was sowing 50, blessing, grace. I was just sowing in people. And it wasn't because I was bad with money. I'm just giving money up. It was because I wanted to sow. I remember what it felt like to not have no money and not to be able to give as much as I wanted. But even when I had $1, all right, even when I had $5, I remember, and this is not to brag, all right, because I don't believe in doing that. But I remember having $5, and there was this homeless lady I would see. And she would always ask me for money, and I always would give her what I had. Or sometimes I wouldn't give her anything because I didn't have anything. Or sometimes I would buy her some food, if I had it. If I had $20, whatever. But I remember having $5, y'all, $5. And I don't eat at fast food restaurants. Even not having no money, I'm a bougie eater. Okay, I just didn't eat at fast food restaurants. I would just eat at home. But she asked me for some food, and I said, "Don't worry, I got you." I took that $5 I had, and I hadn't eaten nothing all day because I think I was like fasting that day, and I was breaking my fast at 5, but I had went to go get anything to eat yet. I had $5. I went to Wendy's and got 2 10-piece nuggets. 2. I said, here's one for you and here's one for me. And I was just like, this is that, but this is what I would do during that time. When you are faithful with a little, God gives you more. All right. When you can give to others, when you can feed others, when you can take care of others, even with the little that you have, God gives you more. He did that for me. And God is no respecter of person. I know we like to throw that up all the time, but it is the truth. The Lord blessed me, and he continues to bless me. And I know that if you're watching this and you're going through something, listen, the Lord is a restorer. He restored me. He can restore you, and he's not finished with me. That's the thing. And that's why my mind goes berserk, and I get like, my coffee is kind of getting watered down, but that's when my mind goes like, whoa, like what's happening? Because and when you're places of what seems like lack or desolate places, when the overflow starts coming, you're like, you get overwhelmed. And you're like, is this really for me? Is this for me? Oh my God. Like imagine you like getting married or something, and you've always been in bad relationships, but you had a spirit of expectation that the man that you was going to marry was going to be an amazing man. And when he finally comes, you're like, oh my God, you're cautious because you're like, wait, is this him? And that's how my life has been. And you almost don't fully embrace it right away because you've dealt with so much. And so I'm so transparent and telling people like, listen, I still struggle, with that a little bit. And it's not that the Lord did anything to hurt me, but that was my own mind. That was my own spirit, like Liv, embracing the trauma versus really truly embracing what the Lord was doing. Now, granted, I did embrace it because I seen so many changes within myself and in my spirit and in my prayer life that I had not saw before. But even that, I criticized. Am I doing enough? Am I doing enough? Am I doing enough? The Lord will meet you where you are. So I just want to encourage you today. If you watch this, if you get to watch it, listen, the Lord is a restorer. He will take care of you. He will take you from the back to the front. You are the head and not the tail. You are above and not beneath, all right? The Lord has taken care of you. He will take care of you. He took care of me. And even now in this pandemic, I see people that help me that are being really attacked during this pandemic, and I'm able to help them. And I'm like, my God, the tables have turned. Not that, oh, it's a brag, but it's like, wow, Lord, look what you would do. Look what you would do. And not to me, I don't want anybody in a position where they can't take care of themselves. But for me, I had $1.63 in my account last year. Okay? Last year this time. And the Lord is a sustainer. He is a God of overflow. And I'm just still in expectation and from waiting for my mind to still be blown even more of what he's going to do in my life and blown for what he's going to do in yours. So I would love to hear testimonies. I would love to hear what the Lord has done for you during this time. If you have felt the same transitions, if you have felt this, if you've been in the same season, I would love to hear about that. Comment below, share this video, like this video. I know it was a long video, but I hope that y'all just kind of felt encouraged and ready to hear the next step or the next piece of the story along the way. So I love y'all. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. I'll see you soon.